remind you of where you're from and why you're here. When you were put in stasis, our home star of Azal had scorched away the rich purple vegetation of our home of Elisria, turning it into an uninhabitable wasteland. It was clear centuries ago that Azal would soon swallow our world whole, and we had no choice but to find a way to leave before our life-giving star became a life-ending star. Even though our situation was dire, and we knew we had only a few hundred years to figure it out, the whole world banded together, developed spaceflight, and launched the nascent Dawn, the very ship you are on now. It would take all the remaining resources of our entire home world to jump the nascent Dawn one time to a new home. We had only one shot, and we had to get it right. After a search through thousands of potential planets, finally, a single usable new home was found, a shining jewel in the endless sky. And so, we stuffed the massive nascent Dawn full of all the frozen Elisrian life we could still save, and jumped here to the world now known as Chorus 1. And to our horror, we discovered that the scouts were wrong. The world you see out the windows, while beautiful, had intelligent life already present, primitive but intelligent. And no matter how desperate we may be, us Elisrians would rather perish than to build a new home at the expense of a developing civilization. No matter how primitive that civilization may be, intelligent life is not to be harmed. And even more to our horror, our massive ship accelerated the decay of the moon, Chorus 1A. Our jump brought us into a low orbit, and by the time we could muster the fuel to move the Dawn, its mass had dragged the moon from an 11,000-year collision course to 2,300 years, dooming the Sergal civilization below to a fate similar to our own, but with no hope of developing technology fast enough to escape their fate. And so, our mission changed. We continued the search for new homes, using what small scouts and meager jump fuel remained, while also redeveloping the equipment to make new jump fuel, and also researching ways to pull that moon back into a higher orbit and save the doomed peoples below, all with a 2,300-year time limit. We knew it would be a daunting task. For 100 years, we lived on rations, scavenged what we could for jump fuel and jump drives, continued to search, and continued to find no suitable homes. Space truly is an empty and desolate place, with few oases suitable for life. We figured out how to hide a few farms on the surface, far away from the developing society of Sergals below. Our best efforts managed to avoid most exposures, but accidents happen, and you will eventually meet a few of these exposed Sergals who have chosen to come live with us permanently on the Dawn. 103 years after launch, desperate for change, we finally braved and survived the harsh conditions of the nearby nebula, and within that nebula we discovered the crystalline matrices, which would prove to change our lives forever. Thankfully, it took us only 3 years of research before we mastered those matrices and mastered the restructuring and manipulation of matter. 6 years after that, 109 years after launch, that technology allowed us to build better ships, explore deeper into the nebula, and it was then we discovered the red crystals. 2 years post, 111 years after launch, those crystals were also mastered, allowing the manipulation of energy and unlocking micro-scale fusion reactors. And that brings us to today, 115 years after launch. You have been brought out of cryosleep because we have now built more scouts. Our people are no longer starving, and we can have more people help search for our new home and research solutions to our moon problem. The global union you remember from Elysium is no more, replaced by a more utilitarian system affectionately known as TAIL. These 4 departments are technology, administration, industry, and logistics. Some of you were clear candidates for one of these departments, and you have received a single coin in the last 24 hours, which you may still have in your pocket. Others of you were more unclear and have received all 4 coins and must explore for yourselves which department is right for you. The technology department, headed by Stannis the Bear, has all of our researchers, scientists, programmers, field specialists, and great thinkers of our society. The administration department, headed by Onyx the Hyena, is responsible for all matters of organization of personnel, physical security, and any other bureaucratic concerns related to TAIL. Industry department, headed by Acton the Doggo, is responsible for all things manufacturing and maintenance. Both our much-needed jump fuel, but also repair parts to keep our aging vessel operational. And finally, the logistics department, headed by Apoma the Servo, responsible for the movement and inventory of supplies, parts, and resources across the ship and space.
As you find your places in this new era, we would now like to introduce you to the current director of the Nascent Dawn, Tycho Skunk, to fill you in on the current events you may encounter over the next few days.
I'm glad you have all survived cryosleep. Welcome back to where we are today. It will be you will have a few days to reacclimate to our current society, and I will give you some reminders of things that you need to do while you do so. For example, the ever-present 6-2-1 rule, which some of you may remember from your time before you were in cryosleep. Namely, 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals a day, and 1 shower, preferably more. I would also like to remind you that we have a team on the room behind you named Flare. Their job is to be your safety advocates and help you if you are having an issue or a problem, or you are feeling unsafe or feeling unhealthy in any way. They can help you figure out your next steps and potentially get you back onto the path of enjoying your next 3 days here.